Well, I've had a lovely trip up from Brighton today, yes, all the way up the A23, stopped off at Peace Cottage, had a lovely Greg's coffee, which we sat in. It had a syrup in it, which actually was far too sweet for me, but in for a penny, in for a pound. We've come all the way to Banstead, near Coulston. Is it Coulston?
This is Woodmanston, dear.
Woodmanston, dear. And to see a dear friend of mine who I've known sort of off and on, but this is actually, oddly, the first time we've met in the flesh. And we go back from days with mutual friends like Kevin Davis and all that lot, who's appeared on several of these shows. And today I'm invited in to his home, and his name is Michael Ward, plus Tilly.
It's good to meet you in the flesh at last.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, we've been friends on Facebook, and in more recent times, it's become like a 2 or 3 day event, isn't it? That we're always on the WhatsApp and all that, and putting messenger or whatever, putting the world to rights. But because of our involvement with television and stuff like that, you know, we've got sort of mutual friends.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've said on so many of these programmes before, every time, you know, you meet somebody, there's a connection somewhere along the line. Being show business,
it's a small world.
It's a microcosm, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all the little minnows, and there's very few big goldfish in there. And the ones who think they're big goldfish are smaller than the minnows. We know who they are, don't we, dear?
Too many.
And this is Tilly. Hello, Tilly. She's very nervous, aren't you,
She's waiting to get down.
Do you want to get down? Well, just wanted to introduce you, but I'll tell you what, let's have one of these. So, Michael, thank you so much for allowing us in. There. That's it. We've got several things in common.
I'll let it down. Yes, we have.
We've got several things in common, which is quite extraordinary. Not really, but I mean, I'm homosexually irretrievably, as you well know, and still very straight and all that, but who gets, apart from one occasion when you were in the Merchant Navy, I understand.
Yes, right, yes.
Yeah, can we talk, this is like, in the Merchant Navy, we all know what happens in the Navy, you know, sail the 7 seas, yes. So
I was in the Royal Mail line, very posh.
Is that M-A-L-E or...
No, M-A-I-L, Royal Mail, you know, parcels.
Well, it's all Queens anyway, darling.
Well, it was on that bloody ship.
So what happened there? Do tell, because it's
I had a wonderful steward who, because in those days, I accepted people being puffs, as they used to say then, but gay.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter to me, and my steward was. And I said, what's your name? And another guy shouted out, Brian. And he said, no, not Brian, Rose, call me Rose.
Call me Rose.
And then we got into the tropics, and you wear the high-necked white tropic outfit. And he said, he brought it back, he'd laundered it, and he said, I haven't starched the collar, it's a bit rough on the neck. He was really good, he was brilliant, he cleaned everything, but when I was leaving the ship, he burst into tears. And he said, would you like to come to the Merchant Navy Hotel with me for the night, Sparks? And I said, no thank you, Rose, I won't, if you don't mind. My brother turned up to pick me up, and he said, so Rose said, well, kiss me goodbye. I said, no, I won't kiss you goodbye, I'll make it too personal. So my brother came up and went, you miserable sod, and go, oh,
big stop.
Yeah.
Those were the days, weren't they? When was that? What year was that?
Oh my God. 63, because I was moving on to another ship then, yeah, about 63.
You see, it's knocking on.
Yeah, 78.
I was at kindergarten. And I was an old queen at kindergarten, darling, I can tell you that without fear of. But,
no, but what used to get me, the old man, the captain, we had Michael Flanders used to come on board to go down to South America. It was a cargo passenger.
Yeah.
We'd go down to South America, we'd pick up a load of beef from Brazil and bring it back. But we used to have quite a lot of passengers, and I had to share a table with some of the passengers, being an officer with the pips, you know, and all the brass to stop me wiping my nose on my sleeve. And if I wanted to chat up one of the girls on the ship, he would go mad. But all the queens were up on the boat deck doing what they wanted with each other. So I think he must have been that way inclined as well. But I didn't care. But the funny thing is we had the Royal Ballet troupe come on there one day, and by the time they got to Argentina, they found that 5 of them were pregnant, and they weren't pregnant before they got on the ship.
I was going to say the Royal Ballet there, I thought, although, you know, I mean, they're very popular, the boys.
Yeah.
There's a couple of King Edward stuff down the front of that, you know what I mean?
I used to video the Royal Ballet in rehearsals. Anyway.
So you came out of the Merchant Navy back in the 60s, I assume.
Yes, yes.
And was it at that time you got married?
Well, I came out, and I've been on a tramp ship as well, which means you just go to the port that want you to pick up something and take it back. And when I left then, because I was witness to a murder on board one of the ships, and 2 drunken Irishmen, they'd hit the 3rd officer in the face with a cleaver from the galley. Lovely man, smashing man, but my God, terrible. Luckily we were in Philadelphia, and there's a good story there too, actually, thinking about it. When I was in Philadelphia, I knew there was a club called the Pink Pussycat Club. The reason not what for you think.
Well, no, I'm only laughing because we made a film a couple of years ago, and it was called The Pink Pussycat.
Are you joking?
No.
Anyway,
that's a coincidence, isn't it? Go on.
I loved a blues singer, street blues singer, a blind guy called Snooks Eaglin. Played 12 string brilliantly, and I used to try and copy him. And I knew he used to sing occasionally at that club. So I started making my way down through Philadelphia and keep asking people where the Pink Pussy Club is. And the white people wouldn't answer me. So I tried to get on a bus. And I stepped on this bus, and the conductor said, "You can't come on here." I said, "Oh, why?" He said, "It's blacks only." I said, "Oh, how fucking stupid." And people at the back started clapping, all the black people. He called a copper to have me removed from the bus.
Was he a white driver or a black driver?
He was mixed race.
Oh, right.
Anyway, so I got kicked off that and threatened that if I get in trouble again, I will be officially arrested. So I go down the club, and I'm in the club, and I walk in the door, and it was like a movie. All the music stopped, and all these black faces turned around to look at me coming through the door, and I just went, "Evening." And one of them said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm looking to see if Snoop's going to play here tonight." And they said, "No, he's not playing here tonight. He's down in wherever it was, I don't know." I said, "Oh, that's a shame." They said, "Do you play?" I said, "Well, I try to." They said, "Get him a box, get him a box." And I was getting a guitar. So I sang a song called "If You're White, You're All Right. If You're Brown, Stick Around. If You're Black, Get Back, Get Back," which is a black man's protest song, saying that they got a number, stepped in line, they called everybody's number, but they never did call mine. They said, "If you're white, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back, get back." And the bloke came up to me, a massive man, absolutely huge. He went, "Right voice, wrong colour." So I said, "Oh, well, I'll take that as a compliment." Anyway, that was Charlie, bless his soul. He was £5 short of Sonny Liston. He was like the man in the Green Mile. He was a giant. And he said, "How did you get here?" And I said, "Well, I walked." He said, "You're lucky to be here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They don't like white people walking through their version of Harlem. This is a black community. I'll have to walk you home. I'll walk you back. Where are you staying?" I said, "Well, I'm on the ships in the dock." So he took me there and he said, "Tomorrow's Sunday, why don't you come for lunch with us tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'll meet you under the railway arch outside the docks." So I'm waiting by this railway arch. The same cop's car pulls up. "What are you loitering here for?" I said, "I'm not loitering. I'm just waiting to be picked up by somebody." "You're loitering." I said, "I'm not." He said, "Are you a foreigner?" I said, "Well, I talk English. The fact you screwed up our language after we lent it to you is no concern of mine." So then they put me in the back of the car, handcuffs and all, and luckily Charlie turned up then and persuaded them that I was waiting for him until...
What did you have for lunch?
Oh, his wife was French. Beautiful, beautiful French lady, white French. And she cooked us a chicken something or another, I can't remember what, but anyway, all I can say is it was extremely tasty. She was a good cook, a beautiful woman. But while I was there, he was filling out a form. And it was his draft papers for Vietnam.
Oh.
and on it was a sheet of saying, are you black, Hispanic, are you white, mixed race, Irish, are you this, are you that? And I'd never seen one of those then. We never had one of those in the early 60s, did we, in this country? And I said, what's all that about? He said, I've got to say what race I am. I said, why do they want to know that? You're asking you to go and put your life on the line. He said, oh, well, yeah. And he put 2 lines across the page. He went, none of the above, member of the human race. And I've copied it ever since. And the only time I got a bollocking was from Surrey County Council.
Really?
Why have you done that? I said, well, I'm a member of the human race. And then I told them the story, and they went, oh, okay. Because I've been back 2 weeks, and I had a letter from his wife saying he'd been killed in Vietnam.
Good heavens.
And a lovely gentleman. Yeah, I often think of him.
So you came out to the Merchant Navy and all this travelling around the world and all that. Back to Blighty, I think they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
What did you do after the Navy?
I was headhunted because I was lucky when I studied electronics, and radar and merchant radio, merchant Navy radio and higher transmission, all sorts of things. I passed my certificates. I passed an exam in radar, and Decca was searching for us, Decca Radar, because we were the first group of people to learn transistor theory, and they wanted to make small radar for small ships because they didn't have them then. They had these bloody great big things. And so I was offered a job there, so I went and worked at Decca Radar, which was absolutely fantastic because they also made televisions in the next block, and one bloke nicked a whole television by putting it in his bag bit by bit every day and building it when he got home.
Built it at home. She's got a 14-inch console, that will console anyone, won't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway.
So from that, so you went into electronics, and out of that, I mean, because you've done television work.
Yeah, well, from there I went designing controls for nuclear power stations for the rods with Muirheads. And then from Muirheads, I got offered a job by David Coleman through my brother to go and work with Zoom Television, which were doing corporate. They had the first, what they called it portable, but it wasn't, 1-inch videotape recorder. Peto Scott it was, and it was always trouble, terrible trouble. But then they got the Ampex, which were good.
Yeah.
They're still bloody heavy.
Oh yeah, but I mean, David Coleman's a small world. Because we spoke about this on the phone, a small. David Coleman, of course, who was a very well thought of sports commentator in the UK. I think for ITV, wasn't it? I think he was on. Can't remember.
He was on the BBC initially, wasn't he?
Yeah, they chopped and changed all the time, but. Unbeknownst, another piece of small world is.
The reason, the reason he left the BBC to ITV is because they said he was too patriotic when he did the commentary.
Quite rightly so.
Yeah,
but the fact being is, I knew David Coleman's son Dean.
And so did I.
And so did he. So this is again. I remember him being very like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been.
He was only a 13, 14-year-old.
Oh, I know. This was much later. He was this. Lovely guy, but very.
He wanted to be a pop singer when I knew him. He was asking me all sorts of advice.
Yeah, it was a bit vigorous, let's put it that way, with his other half, let's put it that way. Always
I couldn't imagine him being like that.
Well, he was. But no, just to actually, I haven't said anything, because I mean, don't fall down fate, everyone, because I'm having coffee.
I've only got water. I give the posh people the coffee.
And it's a little bit not so sweet as the one I've just done. Oh, Greg's.
If you don't like sugar, why did you have syrup in your other coffee?
Because it's not made of sugar. It's made of aspartame.
I bet they put some sort of sugar in it.
Make sure it's got one, but no, but I have it occasionally. It's a treat. I'm not allowed to have bleeding cake. You're right down there, darling. Dear Kevin.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you know how I met him?
How did you meet Kevin John Davis?
I was working at Gateway Films in Palmer's Green.
Palmer's Green, because he's from that neck of the woods.
Yeah, but they had a lovely film rostrum there, 16mm rostrum. Kevin had been doing bits of animation with, what's his name, Lord, is it? He did some of the animation with it. Anyway, and he got him into Hitchhikers, and then he had some other work to do. And they never used their rostrum. And he came in one day and said, I don't suppose you've got a 16mm rostrum? And they said, yes. So he came in, and I was just fascinated watching him do. And then, because of an argument I had with my then boss, I left them. And so I started my own company, producing stuff for Suzuki and American Express and all the pharmaceutical companies you can think of, and the NHS, doing stuff for them. So I used to use Kevin to do the intro animation based on all their logos. Mm-hmm. And people used to think I'd done it on computer, but he'd done it all on film on the roster.
He was a master of letters.
He was. And I said to him, Kevin, get yourself a computer. He said, why? I said, because it's the future. In those days I had an Amiga. Do you remember the Amigas? Amiga 2000B. And I did a load of stuff on that, including stuff for some BBC. I wrote a programme for doing captions, you know, just like Kevin did on Hitchhikers, where the letters appeared. And BBC used it, but they paid me, so all they did was give me another BBC computer.
Beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code, which I used to teach.
Yes.
Back in the day. I used to teach that. Not that I knew bugger all about it, but I was thrown into that one too. So I sort of have a basis, literally basics.
So anyway, that's when I then left and started on my own. At that time, Jan's parents had died and left us very well off, and we bought a massive house, 5-bedroom detached house that I built a swimming pool in the garden and everything. So I thought I was the lord of everything then, but. In 1990,
for all you purvey.
Yeah, but I had a lovely editing suite there.
All right.
Lovely in the garage.
And where was that?
That was up the road in Chipstead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lovely.
It was lovely. Lovely house built called Hallenton. Mm-hmm. Because the guy who built it was called Tony Hall, so he just put the hall first. And
you don't mean the comedian Tony Hall?
No, a builder. I might have been a comedian. I don't know. Some of the things he did in the house, he was a bloody comedian.
Tony Hall, he's appeared on a I Got News for You and stuff like that.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I met Jan by going. She ran a folk club in Beckenham Folk Club. It was called appropriately. She was a very strong lady. Very strong lady. And when we went up there, they came down after a while. We went up and saw them. They came down here for our 50th wedding anniversary. And
how long ago was your 50th?
2018.
Yeah.
And anyway, they came down here.
Well,
and she said,
I'm going to be bloody old.
The one that Jan thought was like a long lost sister that she'd always wanted, said, I didn't know whether to come down here. I said, why? She said, I thought you'd all be snobs. I said, I was dragged up in Peckham, love. What do you mean?
All like that, yeah.
I said, if you want, I'll start talking like I used to when I was down there.
This is the problem I've had, because I had a public school education, I dot my E's and cross me whatsits and all the other things. Sometimes talk like that, you know, terror. I'm from the gutter.
Well, I won a scholarship for more.
Don't you talk posh, they say? No. I said,
no,
and I always say, you're being the social snob.
No, they are. You're
being the social snob.
Yeah.
I don't decry because you want to talk like that. I tend to end up talking similar to the person I'm talking to.
Isn't that funny? I do the same.
And my mother used to do that.
Really?
Yeah, and she was from Netherlands.
I have to be very careful because people think you're taking the piss out of them. Especially a Welshman, you know, and he's giving you all the bloody garble, and you think, and you're starting talking with that sort of slant, and you think, oh, just a minute, hold on, don't you think you're taking...
Well, I know that what happens to me every time I did a play as a Welshman once, so actually, and I've said this once before, it sounded like I'd opened a corner shop.
You sounded like a body star.
Because I was straight out of the Punjab.
Yeah, it does sound very similar.
Then you start doing.
Yeah. Then you start moving your head.
So Jan, who
yes, I'll tell you about her folk.
Yeah. So Jan, what did she do for a living? Because unfortunately, since 2018, and just this year, our lovely Jan did pass away.
Yeah.
And she was a lovely lady. I only ever spoke to her a couple of times on the phone.
Yeah. She's the one that said you sounded like the who played the evil one in Slytherin House in I forgot his name in Harry Potter. Oh, it will come to me.
Oh, you mean he's dead now.
Yeah, that's right. But she said, "Oh, is that so-and-so?" She thought I was talking to him. I said, "No, it's that
I've
bloody..."
forgotten his name too. Isn't that awful?
I know, it's terrible.
And I'm sober. That's
Anyway, I met her in the folk club. I went along, I took my guitar, I said, "Any chance I can sing?" She said, "Yeah, what do you play, folk?" I said, "Well, I play blues." She said, "Oh, nice, yeah, okay." So I went up and I sang, and she got up and sang with another guy. So the following week, and as soon as I saw her, I thought, "I'm getting you." So, very attractive. If you saw her picture, she was... And the following week I went up, I said, "Oh, come and sing again." She said, "Oh, lovely." I said, "By the way, that guy you sing with," this was my chat up line, "is he your boyfriend?" She said, "No, we just sing together." I said, "Well, he's not very good, is he? Why don't you come and sing with me?" And we never looked back. And then I said, "How are you getting home?" She said, "Well, on the bus." I said, "Oh, I'll give you a lift." She went, "Have you got a car?" I said, "Yeah, it's only a small car." She said, "I noticed you've got a 12-string as well." I said, "Yeah, I had an accident, and the money I got from the accident, I bought the 12-string, because they were very rare then, 12-string guitars. I still got it upstairs." Anyway, that's what started it. We got together, and she liked it.
And 55 years before she passed away in April.
56 years.
56 years, April she passed this year.
5th of April. Yeah.
5th of April.
Horrible. On that sofa.
Yeah. But you had children, not?
Yes, we got Matthew, our eldest. He's got learning disabilities and autism.
And Matthew, that's why we've got quite a lot in common when it comes to talking about care, autism, non-specific areas of communication and all that. So we've got quite a bit in common, including telly.
But don't forget, when Matthew was born in 1972, nobody knew what autism was.
No.
And my God, did they find out what Jan was like, the NHS, education. It ended up, we fought until he was 29 before he got diagnosed with autism. Isn't that bloody disgusting?
But he can communicate, because he's been on, when we've been on.
He can't.
But he's been on the phone to you sometimes.
But so. it's what I call Tarzan speak, because when he got to 11, I'd been on a Macaton course and a British Sign Language course.
Macaton is a very simple sign language that lots of non-communicative, autistic and learning difficulties or
we tried Paget Gorman as well, but that was too complicated.
For instance, guess what that is? Cake, and that sweets, and I'm not allowed any. But a couple of them. I don't mean coffee.
Matthew can do every swear word in Macaton and BSL.
Well, I've been working. I'm not working for them now, but I was working with young adults.
I know. I realise.
Yeah, and I tell you what, they make their own up.
Oh, I know. Matt, that's what started off.
Okay, what are you talking about?
Matthew would come up and go, "Oh, you," and he'd go like that.
Yeah.
Cook.
He wanted to baking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we hadn't been taught anything then, and then we met Margaret Walker, who invented Macaton, because it's for Margaret, Catherine and Tony. That's where it comes from.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, Catherine and Tony were two learning disabilities people and autistic who would make up their own signs. So she realised it as a carer, and she decided she would take bits of BSL and make up other stuff which is simpler. So it was her, and Matthew raised fortunes for it. He did the first London 10k he ran, and he'd been hit by.
I couldn't do 10 yards.
Well, he'd been hit by a drunken driver only 6 months before. His leg was smashed into 7 places. He's still got metal in his legs, but he still did it. And do you know what? This just shows you how wonderful people are in this world. Part way round, I was running around with the camera, following them. And I think I'd run more miles than they bloody run, because I was able to go.
You go backwards and forwards, yeah.
He had stitch, and he bent over, and his carer, lovely bloke, David, said, "You're right, mate." And no, it hurts. So he stopped. And a girl came up to me and said, "No, you can do that. Don't worry, we're all right. It's only stitch. You've got to run it through." Guess who it was?
Oh.
Zola Budd. She'd finished about 20 minutes beforehand, and she ran with him all the way to the finish.
Bless her.
I know, no shoes on. Matthew couldn't make it, and he thought you could only run well if you didn't have any shoes on.
As I say, I could only do about 10 yards.
But what a lovely thing for someone to do, realising that...
There are some wonderful people, aren't there?
Yeah,
a lot of people that I come across, they think I'm some sort of kind, overly kind, hedonistic type.
Yeah.
I am a kind person, I try to be anyway, but at the end of the day...
But I wouldn't like you as an enemy.
God, you're so right. And one or two people, haven't they, Stephen? What I tend to do, treat as be treated. But
Absolutely.
But people don't understand when it comes down to anyone with a learning difficulty or unable to communicate. And sometimes it's people who have had accidents.
Yeah.
Who were totally normal and all that, and then are completely paralysed, maybe able to get some movement back, but because of the brain damage and all, they can't speak anymore.
Horrendous.
And all that, and you think to yourself, I often would look at my charges and say, in a different life, I wonder what you would have been.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we'd be friends.
Because
we're completely different people.
Yeah, but you see, Matthew's got the most incredible memory. He remembers things we did years ago that I'd say, no, Matthew, I don't think we did that. And then my daughter would say, oh, yes, we did. So, and he remembers it all. He never forgets.
Well, it's like that guy that can just look at a thing once and
completely
draw
the artist.
The artist.
Oh my God, unbelievable. I would like a bit of his art, but it's selling very well.
Does Matthew live on his own?
He lives in his own flat. Now, he never wanted to. He lived here with us. And up until he was, 2004, so he'd been about 30 odd, we used to say, Matthew, you should really start looking for your own place with people coming in, because we're not going to live forever, blah, blah, blah. No, stay here, see? Stay here. So I thought, okay, fine. Now, if Matthew, if he doesn't want something, he will just go, no, thank you. Then he means, don't even mention it again. If he shouts, you can normally persuade him. So anyway, he had a brilliant carer then, Graham, who would take him out every day, come to the home, pick him up, take him out, bring him back, blah, blah. And he'd taken him to see a guy in the block of flats in Red Hill, Tom, and Matthew and he got on like a house on fire. And they used to go there for tea and biscuits, and they'd go out together, and they got on really well. Anyway, one day this guy suddenly was taken out of the flat. I've worked it out since why. And Matthew went in there with his carer, not knowing Tom had gone, and said, me flat, yeah, me. And he come to me and said, me got flat. And I said to Jen, don't say anything. I said, oh, well, that's nice, Matthew. You can show us one day, thinking it will all pass. But no, he's been there now since 2004. He loves it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And he's got, mind you, we've had to change 3 lots of providers. He's got a good set now. Avenues Trust. They're brilliant. They're just so... They got him down to a T, which is what you want.
Yeah.
So
and it's far better that in his own flat, because it's not a residential home, which are completely different.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And, so he's basically supported in his own home. Which
what used to make Jan and I really happy was everyone that worked with him would come in, and I would say to him, if you're going to leave for whatever reason, you must let Matthew know on a gradual basis, because if it's sudden, he gets really distraught.
Absolutely.
And every one of them, bar one, have said, I'm not leaving him, he's the best guy we've ever worked with, he's easy compared with the rest. I said, well, he was never easy at home, he would smash doors, he'd do all sorts of things, but it's because of frustration. I just used to repair it, so because he didn't know, he just didn't understand, it was just a reaction he had. It's the only way he could express himself at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed where I was, but I think it's basically to do with my age, because they're such young, vibrant, full of energy, and with the old neuropathy and the piriformis and this, I can't get around.
No, but I found in many. I'll tell you an interesting little story that happened to me. I used to work in another block of flats in Caterham. You're going to love this appropriate name. The manager was called Ishmael. There was a girl in there I looked after, bless her soul, she's gone now. It was a house full of people, senior teenagers, young adults, with extreme epilepsy. I mean extreme. Lovely, all lovely people. And one day they had a carer come, a young guy, Scots guy, and this young girl come up to me, I won't give her name, but she came up to me and she said, he keeps touching me where he shouldn't. And I said, really? Tell Ishmael. He won't listen. You'll listen? I said, yes, I'm listening, don't worry about it. What was he doing? She said, it all started off with him saying, let's have a tickle game. So anyway, he denied it because I told Ishmael, and anyway, in the end, they kept him on. They didn't move him to another house. They kept him in the same place, and it got so bad. She was distraught. And I went on one day, and Ishmael said to me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I've come to see her." I won't go say I'm not going to give her name, but she was anyway. She had severe epilepsy, and she was dead jealous because one of the other lads there had had an operation, and his epilepsy was cured. Lovely guy, spoke 3 languages.
Good heaven.
His mother worked for translation services in the European Commission or something. Anyway, I said, I've come to see her. She's texted me and said, could I come and see her? You're not going to see her, you're a man. I said, you've just been talking to her and you're showing no sympathy. She knows I understand what she's trying to tell me, and she'll tell me more than you. Anyway, we ended up having a bit of a doodah, and I got her out of there and got her somewhere else.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, that's my experience in care. I loved working in care, but the trouble was I would find too many of them peculiar people. They never worked there for the clients, as they called them, or service bloody users.
Oh, I can't bear it.
No, nor can I.
It's awful. You know, they've got names.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
and
yeah.
I was told off, actually, I think I told you this, you can't call them boys. Well, that's 30 years
Why?
later. That's condescending. I said, I even call the
Why
people
is that
I went
condescending?
I call my friends from school I've known, for over, 60 odd years, boys. What are you talking? Where did that notion come from?
Well, girls call each other girls, so what's the difference?
I just don't understand. I really don't.
You get a guy down the road loves Tottenham Hotspurs, and he says, I'm going to Tottenham with all the boys next week.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
got feet problem. And she said, "Oh, you shouldn't take your shoes off in their house." I said, "Well, can I wear slippers? Well, you're not allowed to wear slippers." And I said, "Why?"
Ishmael didn't like you wearing shoes in the house because he was a Muslim, and you had to take your shoes off. Even the bloody people who lived there had to
I said, but it's their house. You shouldn't be wearing slippers."
Oh, no, absolute poppycock.
I just said, where on earth, I won't mention the ladies, where on earth do you get these really archaic and stupid
Sadly,
notions?
they don't understand. They don't understand on improving the life.
And welcome back, here we are again in Michael's lovely front room, and I've just had a look round the garden, which is beautiful. Now, your darling wife, as we've said, passed away on the 5th of April this year.
Yes.
She had been unwell for some time.
She'd fought cancer for 8 years.
8 years, and
she had taken part in a trial for Pfizer for a new cancer drug for 7 of those years. Mm-hmm. Initially, she was one of only 75 worldwide trying it, but the trouble was, being a new drug that they hadn't tried on animals or anything, it was an overdose they gave her, and so she became very, very ill. So I took her to Epsom Hospital, and they said, "Oh, she's got a terrible infection." I said, "No, she's on a trial for a mixture of avelumab and axitinib, both new drugs being trialled by Pfizer. And they don't know what doses to give until they get it sorted. And I think this is a reaction to that. You don't know what, are you a doctor?"
Oh, here we go, yeah.
I said, "I'm not a doctor, but I used to make videos training you bastards."
Good for you.
And said, "Well, you're not a doctor. If you made videos, it doesn't make you..." I said, "No, hold on 1 second. Will you just wait 1 second?" So I got my mobile out and I phoned the on-call number at Royal Marsden for people that are doing trials. Because they know this sort of thing can happen. And I get the head honcho. He answered the phone. The chief executive at the Royal Marsden in Chelsea answered the phone. Sadly, he's gone, God bless him. And I told him what was happening. He said, give them the phone, in that sort of voice. And then this doctor's going like this, putting the phone away, he'd been screamed at. And an American doctor that had come over here to work with the NHS to see what it's like, he said, can I help? And I said, please. And he took the phone and he chatted and he told him who he was, and he worked in oncology and so on and so forth. So he went and said, I'll deal with this lady, okay? Don't worry, I'll deal with her. And he did. He did all the things that the guy at Royal Marsden told him to do, and she was back home the next morning.
It's extraordinary because you know I'm diabetic.
Yes. As I am.
Yeah, but you're not on the insulin, do you?
No, because I'm diabetic because of my hemochromatosis.
Try saying that after the pub shut. Well, what happens is I went down recently to see my doctor and he'd see how I'm getting on, because I've only been on the insulin. I've been
Do you inject in your stomach?
Yeah. I can do it in my buttocks.
Yeah, but is it subcutaneous, or so it's straight?
You just stick it in like that.
Oh.
And I tell you what, I'll show when we finish. I'll show the needle. You can't hardly see.
Well, Jan used to inject herself with blood thinners after everything had gone, because...
Yeah, but let me just tell you what the doctor said to you. He said, you're doing quite well on the insulin. He said, we don't often see you. And I said, do you want me to be ill? And I love going to see my doctor because he's incredibly good looking. Not as good looking as my husband, because you know my husband's very good looking.
He is very good looking.
I mean, I know he's homosexual, my husband. He's straight, and if he thinks he's... Oh, you've never seen him.
No, don't misunderstand. I see nothing wrong if I see a bloke that looks fit and is handsome. I will say, my God, you're ripped and you're very good looking.
He is incredibly good, but so's my doctor. Now, the fact is, because I've got the old neuropathy and all that, and I was saying, he said, you see, you'll be able to sort all this out on your own, really, apart from going on the insulin. And I said, David, because I'm first name terms with my doctor, and Adrian is the nurse, she's a lady nurse called Adrian. And I said, yeah, I've been treated like royalty at this surgery. You've always treated me so well. The other thing, that you do not take the piss. He said, what do you mean by that? And I said, a lot of you doctors and nurses think you're experts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, like what's happened to when that guy was saying, well, you're not a doctor. We know, we're not stupid.
No, absolutely.
And of course, I trained as a nurse.
Yeah.
And I think they take that into consideration, because I often say, well, if I said to David, I said, I can come down and see you, but with my neuropathy, it's a pain in the neck trying to get down to you.
You mean a pain in the foot?
Well, both of them. They were all right over the weekend. Coming up here, they've gone all doolally again, you know what I mean? But that's the point. Everyone said, what did Kenneth Williams once say on one of his chat shows? He said, everyone, yes. It's all experts, aren't they? They're all experts.
Yeah, and
everyone, yes, they're all experts, and know nothing.
I used to say to somebody once, he said, well, we're the experts. I said, yeah, X meaning has been, and spurt being a very large drip from a tap.
You could take that many ways.
Anyway, but you talking about that, when Jan had a tumour removed in her kidney, wonderful surgeon, she fell in love with him, good looking bastard he was too, tall, very elegant, like one of the old fashioned doctors you see, consultants you see on...
Straight out Doctor in the House.
Yeah, that sort, very good looking. Anyway, I'll tell you something I told him in a minute that worried him. Anyway, he phoned me every half an hour after the operation. So just sort of let you know, I haven't had to put a drain in, this has all gone fine, it's nice and clean, I've got the whole tumour out, there's nothing, da 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 da. And when she was in resus, she had an epidural, and they were giving her morphine because they were taking the epidural out. Then they found out she was allergic to morphine. She came out red all over, blisters and everything. And I heard a doctor say, give us some naloxone. And I said, no, you can't do that. He said, who are you? I said, have you ever seen the programme Opioid Receptors? He said, yes, I fucking made it. And I wrote the script on the advice of a few doctors who understand more than you do. If you give her naloxone now, it will reverse all the actions of morphine, and she will not be able to have any other pain relief all the time that's in her system. So then you got to flush that out. And he went, I said, get your bloody BNF and have a look.
Another expert, you see. But we are. That's the thing. If you've had something, I've had this condition for 36 years, people think, do you often get, oh, poor you. There's nothing wrong.
I get it. No, all I get is, when I say I've got hemochromatosis, they go, what the fuck's that?
Would you explain to the viewers, because I can only just about pronounce it, what is hemochromatosis?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed till I was 70, and I'm 78 now. And it had
78.
If it hadn't been for a new locum doctor going in to take place for the diabetic nurse, but she was a doctor, Chinese, she'd gone in, and when I walked in, she went, "Oh, I've been looking for all your results."
Oh.
And I went, "Oh, really?" She said, "I think you've got hemochromatosis." I went, "What?"
Who?
I said, "Blood disorder, something what?" She said, "Hemochromatosis, mean your body never get rid of iron all your life." I said, "What do you mean?" She said,
For Christ's sake, don't get a magnet near him then.
"No, my brother said, I can cure that, stick a magnet up your ass."
So
No, you don't. Like your normal ferritin count would be between 50 and 70.
I used to have to take iron tablets.
So yours were low.
Yeah.
So your normal reading has been between 50 and 7. When they measured mine, it was 1,792.
So normally
And luckily, I've been giving blood, but it would have buggered anybody else taking it. I've been giving blood which had reduced the amount of iron in my blood because I've taken away the blood that's got the iron in it, and that's what gave me diabetes, because it collects in the pancreas and fucks it, basically.
Because a lot of people just think the pancreas is just there to produce insulin. Not only does it do that, it actually, that is why a lot of people with diabetes end up with terrible tummy problems. You know? And I had it recently, God, it's painful, where insulin actually also passes into the stomach to actually alleviate the amount of acid that's in the stomach.
Yes, yes.
And if it doesn't work properly, you could end up with the most awful dyspepsia, and your stomach will not digest the food.
Yeah.
And I had this, it's going to sound revolting, I had some borscht, homemade. And I said,
you put a picture of it up, didn't you?
Yeah, it was gorgeous, I tell you what. And some curly fries, lovely, but you know, just on the side. Didn't digest at all. So it came back, it was the most revolting thing that went down that toilet I've seen in a long time because of that problem. Yeah. And people just think it is, you know, to do with eating cake and things like that, and it's not.
You're not going to believe this, and nobody else does. They go, "What?" When I tell them, I get the same if I eat celery. No, cucumber, not celery, I love celery. If I eat cucumber, I get the most horrendous stomach gripes to start with, and then I come out in bloody hives all over.
Well, some people are totally allergic to celery, but celery has no food value whatsoever.
No,
do you know that?
They think cucumber isn't, but that melon and stone fruit I can't take because they all contain a particular alkali which my body cannot deal with. And it's probably because of this bloody hemochromatosis. But added to that, I've also got an antigen called HLA-B27 in my body. Oh. So my ancestors have been bloody good to me, haven't they? Because I've got all this crap that's gone into my system.
Well, I was adopted, so I've got no bleeding idea.
Oh, you can't follow through?
I can follow through all the time, do that on many occasions, see where I went with that one. Yeah, no, I don't know. People say, it's like, I remember on one occasion, I complained to when I lived in Crawley, when I was aircrew, and I complained of the amount of money I was spending on...
You didn't fly out of Croydon Airport, did you?
No, Crawley.
Oh, I thought you said Croydon, sorry.
I'm not that bleeding old.
No, Tilly, don't want to be
and the fact is that I complained about how much was going to state education. She said, well, why should you not pay back what you were given back? I said, I'm terribly sorry, my dear, but I went to private school. Yeah. I said, don't make an assumption like that. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know? But I've always constantly said to myself, whatever situation you're in, and I tend to be like a surrogate, not GP, but health advisor to a lot of people.
Well, you do.
Because of having been a nurse, which is the best apprenticeship.
But I haven't been a nurse, but I made loads of programmes for the NHS, and I was so grateful because you learn so much.
It was the best apprenticeship I had for life, I tell you.
It is, it is.
Of course, then it took, only on the 5th of April this year, your lovely wife passed away in this very house.
Yeah, on that sofa.
On that sofa over there.
That was horrendous.
And...
Because, let me just say, I love cooking.
Oh, I know, I've seen, if we go on about putting our photographs of what we eat all the time, you should see some of the stuff we produce, fantastic.
Well, I hope you like the sandwiches. I've made you some Anzac biscuits.
Anzac biscuits? You know what they are, dear?
They were made by Anzac, Australia, New Zealand.
Darling, it's very Dame Edna.
They used to make them during the war, because they would last for months,
Right.
just kept in an envelope, and they'd send them to their sons in World War II. And they got just named ANZAC because it's Australia New Zealand Army Corps.
See, he's very clever.
I'm not.
Not only can he build a conservatory, he can make Anzac biscuits. So you were saying before we went on to the Anzacs.
Oh right, I forgot where I am now.
We were talking about. Oh God, I forgot what we were talking about.
You were talking about Jan.
Jan passing away.
Yeah. I'd made some tea, and then I said, I'm going to do the dishwasher. She said, no, I help. So she rinsed the dishes, passed them to me, put them in the dishwasher. Sat down, I said, right, what do you want to watch on the telly? She said, well, I've recorded a load of stuff. So I gave her the remote and said, well, you choose what you want. I'm not fussed. Then she held the remote and she went, oh. I said, what? She said, I think I'm having a heart.
And then?
No. Then she went, I said, tell me what you're feeling, because I'm then dialing 999 at the same time. She said, I can't breathe, and gone.
Just like that?
Yeah. But, I mean, I cried solidly.
Yeah, but you tried CPR.
I did CPR for 10 minutes.
How long was it until the ambulance arrived?
Well, 10 minutes. They came in, but they said they came in about 8 minutes, and then said, you carry on while we get set up. This place, they moved all the furniture out of the way because they got so many bloody defibs and everything and machines and...
Looked like an episode of Casualty.
It did.
Yeah.
And there was 5 of them. Turned up in 3 ambulances.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
And people complain about the ambulance service.
Anybody complains about the NHS to me, I'll crown them.
And your wife works for the National Health Service, doesn't she?
I get really angry when people complain.
Really.
You get somebody who's got a fucking splinter in their finger and they're complaining that they've waited 2 hours and there's some poor kid.
Or somebody, I say to Adrian, when I go and have my checkup, and I say, how many people a week in the winter do you get coming and thinking they've got flu and all they've got is a cold?
Cold.
You said, it can't count them.
Yeah.
Where they should be doing a triage and just on you. Just go and take some paracetamol.
Well, that's why, when Jan collapsed in France, here we go.
Yeah. Collapsed in France too.
She had the beginning of sepsis. I took her to
sepsis, which is
Villeneuve-sur-Lot. She kept saying she was in pain. She had pain in her back. And I said, well, let's go to the hospital. No, I'll probably strain my back. Typical. Anyway, we went to a jazz concert during the day down in the south of France, and we left, and she just killed over. So I picked her up, we got in the car, went to the hospital. Unbelievable. It was a 13th century monastery that had been converted in. Everything was marble. You could have eaten your food off of any surface. Anyway, we go in there, no nuns or monks there anymore, all doctors. Fantastic hospital. And they said, right, x-ray straight. What you get there, when you get triage, you get a row of 5 nurses. All they want is your name, the address you're living, and 2 blood samples. That's all they ask for. And they said the doctor will be with you in 20 minutes, and there's like 60 people in the thing. I said to Jan, this is going to be like Epsom all over again. We'll be hours sitting there. Are you all right? You want pain relief? Or you're okay? She said, no, just let me relax. It's very painful. Let me relax. Anyway, within 17 minutes, this doctor came through the door. He went, Madame Watt. And I stood up. He went, no, Madame Watt. And I said, je suis Monsieur Watt.
That's your actual French.
I said, je suis Monsieur Watt. Je suis la femme de mariée de Madame Watt. And he went, okay, d'accord, entrez. So we both went in, and they went to X-ray her. Couldn't find anything. Then they did an ultrasound, couldn't find anything, apart from, the doctor said, when did you have your appendix removed? She said, I've never had my appendix removed. I have to have a CT scan. Took her for a CT scan. Her appendix was on the transverse colon behind the liver. It was the size of a grapefruit and seeping. That's why she had the beginnings of sepsis.
Far up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normally down.
Yeah, I know. And I said, typically you've got to be different to everybody in every way.
How do you know because it's down here?
I know. Well, no, that doesn't have to. It could be anywhere up that colon.
Yeah.
But it was on the transverse colon, right behind the liver, and it's because it was seeping, it was touching the liver, and
that's why, and sepsis, as we know, in the majority of cases, is fatal.
Yeah, but so we're sitting there, and this lovely doctor, looking at us, and I said, right, so you have to have a major operation. Are you all right for a journey down to Bordeaux, because this is a small village, smaller than Red Hill. And the doctor, for the first time in English, said, "Why do you want to go to Bordeaux?" I said, "Well, CT scan, but we have one down the corridor." Tiny little hospital. And then they found this thing, and I said, she said, "Right, go give me some painkillers and some antibiotics and I'll go home." He went, "No." I said, "What are the chances?" He said, "You wouldn't survive. You'd arrive dead on arrival because of the pressure in the aircraft and everything." Anyway, the surgeon then came down. Another big, tall, handsome looking, but typical French. He said, "I'm going to try and do it by keyhole surgery." So I said, "Oh, okay," thinking this is the size of a grapefruit. You know, how's he going to do it with keyhole surgery? You're not going to burst it and then drag it. Anyway, I'm waiting. He said it'd be an hour and a half. 4 hours later, I'm still waiting. She's still on the operating table. And so I walked down to phone my daughter and say, "Mum's in, she's come out of the operation, she's waiting in recovery, but they won't let me in yet." So I'm waiting to say, just told a lie to keep her calm. And as I'm standing there, the surgeon comes out, whips his mask down, lights his fag.
As a child.
So he turned around and went, "Oh mon Dieu," and he put his flag out straight away. And he went, "Je suis très désolé," which means I'm really sorry. And I thought, oh shit, she's gone. And I said, "Pourquoi vous êtes très désolé?" And he said, "Because," and again in English, "I could not do keyhole, I had to do incision." I said, "Oh." So anyway, we get back to England, and the doctor at, she had a bit of an infection in there, at Epsom, said, "So, how are you managing with the bag?" Because we told her the story before, inspector. I said, "She's not wearing a bag." What this French, so if you'd been in England, they would have taken all it out, the whole lot out, and put her a bag in. This surgeon took all her intestines out through this incision, took the the appendix off, sewed it back up, put a hole ahead of it, and put saline and antibiotics through the whole system for about 20 minutes, then folded it all back in the stomach and sewed her up. And she lived. That was in about 2006, I think. So, you know, what an amazing... Why wouldn't they have done that over here?
Well, you sometimes wonder, don't you?
Yeah, it's a...
But I've always had good reports about
No, the Royal Marsden with her and the operation with the kidney and everything and all the follow-up they've been... You can't afford... I've never... They've saved Jan's life 3 times. They've saved my son's life twice.
Yeah.
He was hit by a drunken driver. Fractured skull, broken leg in 7 places, skinned because they dragged him along the road.
Have they saved your life at all?
No, they're just glad to get rid of me.
Walked into that one, didn't they?
Well, I'm like you, Mark. I'm not one of these people who can stand aside and just accept things. I have to know the ins and outs. I got complained at by Surrey County Council when I was partnership and planning officer for Surrey County Council for disabled people. One of the majors said to me, "You're too much of a detail person, you should just look at the broad picture." I said, no, that's too general. How do I know what part is going wrong unless I look at the detail? I said, you want to go and work in a TV studio when they're getting prepped, when they're getting everything ready.
All the detail.
Yeah, all the detail, the script, everything, you know, and I said...
Well, it's like Kim making a film. I don't know how, honestly, Steve, I don't know how you keep it all up here. When we did the feature film recent, it's won 3 awards, by the way.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
4.
Oh, sorry. They won 4 awards.
Get it right, Mark. Get it right.
No, I didn't know because he keeps on winning awards. But you see, you have the detail that goes in there and how it's done. It's the same. And that is why you and I are very similar because it's, you know what annoys me? When somebody passes away, they will say, after a long illness. I want to know what the illness was.
Yeah, oh God, so do I.
What, yeah, but, you know, what, do they have a cold?
In a minute, I'll get Jan's order of service for you.
All right.
But I don't want you crying.
I won't. Now here's Jan. I'm sure.
That's when she was a young girl.
And so it's 3rd of February 1947 to the 5th of April 2023. And I was very, very kindly asked to come to the funeral. But for some unknown reason, you said, don't worry about it, Mark.
Yeah.
We were going to do this anyway, so we can catch up.
Yeah.
And we're constantly on the bloody phone to each other.
I sent you the video of the service.
And so I've got, he's been back in the, I'll tell you what, editor here, he's done Jan's life, and were you two together?
No, my daughter did the life of Jan.
Well, you two together.
She teaches video technology.
Well, there you are. And then there's the Yvonne, isn't it? Who was Yvonne?
No, Gillian.
Where have I got Yvonne from?
I don't know an Yvonne.
That's somebody else, isn't it?
I don't know an Yvonne. Oh, the only Yvonne is the wife of the man that just tried to phone me. And I know.
So, yeah.
Are you psychic as well?
Well, if I was psychic, I'd know the winning lottery numbers, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
That's the old one, we always say that.
Yeah.
But no, so look at that lovely thing. And I didn't go in the end, but our mutual friend, family, which I call family, Kevin John Davis, went, who has been ill for some time and all that, is now fully recovered, which is good news.
Just now I was asked if I want to say something at the end. What I'd like to do, this order of service, years ago, 1975, I was driving to my office in Baker Street.
Baker Street.
Had my own office in Sherlock Mews.
221.
I heard Don Williams on the radio singing "You're My Best Friend," and I thought I'll get that for Jan. So I stopped at the record shop and bought the record, the 45.
That's vinyl.
And I bought it for Jan. I came home and played it to her, and she finished this and she said, "What's she singing about his dog?" That was Jan's sense of humour, because it says, "You placed gold on my finger, you brought love like I've never known, you gave life to our children, and to me the reason to go on." That's the first verse. But the chorus is, "You're my bread when I'm hungry, you're my shelter from troubled winds, you're my anchor in life's ocean, but most of all, you're my best friend."
Well, I don't think there's anything else we should say further than that. I just want to say very much thank you to Michael Ward and Tilly, who's round here somewhere. Oh, she's gone back out there. And yet again, a great one from the House of Salika. This is Marc and Chums saying goodbye. Thank you again, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I've enjoyed it.
And I'm so glad. This sort of show is good to be able to get things off your chest.
Yeah. It is.
You know,
and people don't
not
do
that
it
you've got
enough.
things on your chest, it's the fact that you're able to talk about something. And
That is the trouble now. Because of lockdown, people don't communicate anymore. You placed gold on my finger, you brought love like I've never known. You gave life to our children, and to me a reason to go on. You're my bread when I'm hungry, you're my shelter from troubled winds, you're my anchor in life's ocean, but most of all, you're my best friend. When I need hope and inspiration, you're always strong when I'm tired and weak. I could search this whole world over, you still be everything that I need. You're my bread when I'm hungry, you're my shelter from troubled winds, you're my anchor in life's ocean, but most of all, you're my best friend. Thank you.